Hello out
Hello.
there on the interwebs. Lauren and Danny, homegrownradionj.org. Chewing the scenery, now changed to
Chew the scene.
We shortened it a little bit. Big day.
We love to
shorten
things.
We love to shorten things.
I don't know what I was going to say there.
Hashtag chew the scene.
Hashtag shorten.
So we have I'm so excited about today.
Yes.
I really am very excited. So in about 10 minutes, I'm going to be calling actor and
actor on every television show.
I know.
Pretty much.
We always have like a pre-show meeting at the coffee shop, and we were laughing because we're all sitting at a table and we're all on our devices.
But we were doing work.
We were working. But yeah, Peter Onorati, hometown hero. One of the, I'm going to say OG Boot and Bomber.
OG. The original.
Yes. And, his catalog of work is just amazing. Like, once you start going through, the IMDb, you're like, oh, my God.
But if you're out there going, what show?
Every
just a little show called This Is Us.
That's right. This Is Us and SWAT.
Yes.
So This Is Us is on NBC. SWAT is on CBS. But we're going to talk to Peter about everything. But before we do that, we need to talk a little bit about, spoiler alert, Star is Born.
Yeah, if you didn't see the movie,
you might want to
you might want to just
go la 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 la
la la la for like 5 minutes.
Because we are going to have some spoilers. So I went to...
You saw it last week.
I went last Friday. I grabbed a couple of ladies and we did like the early morning show. And I was ugly crying throughout the entire...
I saw it.
Moment.
I saw it Tuesday.
Right.
And I saw it at 1 o'clock. That's early.
That's early.
Can I just say real quick? Because I just don't go to the movies often enough. It was like reserved seating, which there was 3 people in the movie theater at that time. But it was like the recliner chairs, and I was like obsessed with my recliner chair.
You see, I have a problem with that because I'm a little bit of a germaphobe. So when I go to a movie, I have a very hard time sitting back. I'm always like sitting a little... Yeah,
oh, no.
It's horrible.
I was embracing that recliner chair, and you want to know something? My butt did not hurt.
No, I know. They're comfortable.
For the 2 hours and 15 minutes, it did not hurt.
Which is how long the movie is.
Yes.
By the way. After you get through the half hour of previews.
Which I was loving all the previews, by the way.
I know.
Did you see like the same previews as me?
I'm sure, well, I don't know. Probably.
Well, the new Fantastic Beasts.
Yes.
Even that Robin Hood looks good.
Yes, it does.
And I was watching it, and it's Jamie Foxx, right? Jamie Foxx and I don't know the other actor's name, but I'm watching it going, is this Robin Hood? And all of a sudden the one character goes, I'm the sheriff, and you're like, oh, Robin Hood? Yes. And then he's like, Hood, and you're like, oh, Robin Hood. Yeah.
So, Star is Born.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, going back. No, it's okay. You were excited.
I was taking you through my experience.
Through your whole Star is Born experience.
So you ugly cried, huh?
I did. I was like, and I'm going to, please remember, spoilers coming up. Spoilers.
If you didn't see it, sorry. Not sorry.
Andrew Dice Clay as her father.
Yes.
And there was a couple of scenes. I cried. I cried a couple scenes with the two of them because I felt that relationship. Yeah. Because my mom's gone.
A lot of happy tears, too, though.
Happy tears, like the pride that he felt when his daughter... that is my dad. My dad, Barbara Krakowski, says when your father comes to see you in a show, she goes like, look at him, and it could be the saddest thing happening, and he's just staring at you, smiling.
Well, and in the movie, that moment when she goes, no, when she says it's not it's not your fault.
Yeah,
you took me to all those piano lessons.
Yes.
So yeah, I really.
Andrew Dice Clay, David Chappelle.
David Chappelle was in it. Yeah.
Okay.
Played a friend. Oh my gosh.
There was one more that I was like...
The manager, Lorenzo, was...
Yeah, he was someone. I recognized him, but I couldn't figure out. Sam Elliott. Can we talk about Sam Elliott, who always looks the same? He has not aged a day.
Ron Rifkin was even in it. He plays the manager.
I know. But here's my thing. Is he bad? This is how I felt about the movie. Yeah. They weren't good and bad. They were who they were.
They were who they were. You're right.
Because at first I was like, oh, that manager. But I was like,
well, because you're like, why did he say that?
Right, because he's coming.
But it was funny. I walked out of there going, your footprint is set for you.
Right.
And for Bradley Cooper's character, and this was my first time seeing A Star Is Born. I did not see Judy Garland. I didn't see Chris Christoph. I didn't see.
Right.
It's my first time seeing the story.
You didn't see Barbara.
So I knew how it ended, but I didn't want it to end that way. And I just walked out going, "That's his footprint." I mean, you know, spoiler. He talks about how his mother died at childbirth, and then the dad died when he was 13, and he was raised by his brother. So he had all these hardships already,
kind of,
and then the alcoholism. I feel like there was only a matter of, and he had a suicide attempt as a teenager.
Right.
So if it didn't happen at that moment, it was going to happen. That's how I kind of felt about it.
And there was this interesting article that someone said, you know, in this day and age, why, you know, A Star Is Born, why do we have to still talk about, you know, fragile masculinity? Like, if we're going to remake the movie, I'm like, well, then it's not A Star Is Born.
No.
Like, are we going to change Romeo and Juliet? Are we going to change the seagull just to, you know, to fit our times? We are telling the story of A Star Is Born, and this is the story. I don't like, why change it?
So we forgot to mention one actor that I was super excited to see, Anthony Ramos, Hamilton.
Yes, who was her best
Philip
friend.
Hamilton.
And
John Lawrence.
Yep.
Who was her best friend? I was like, go you.
Oh, and that scene, there was when he there was a couple of, which I loved about the movie, there wasn't really underscoring. So it was gritty, and you really felt like you were watched like a fly on the wall. You were there with them. And the filmmaking and the editing.
Bradley Cooper directing.
Okay, that's what, and how unbelievably amazing was he in that movie? I couldn't believe that was a couple times. I forgot that it was. I thought he was Jackson Maine. I totally forgot.
I said to you, I said I thought Lady Gaga was great, but I thought he was a revelation.
He was. You did say that, and then I was like, we got to stop talking right now.
And he gets better and better with every film he does.
I mean, seriously, The Wedding Crashers, The Hangover.
But it's just like. Well, Silver Linings Playbook was the first. I think was the one that really made. He
ripped my heart out
shift.
in that movie too.
But he was just so incredible. And Lady Gaga, it was refreshing to see her with not all that. To see that character, to see Stephanie, I felt like we saw her like herself.
Right. She's like
she's playing a character, of course, but. Just so much of it, I felt like was her story in real life. You know, she talks about that whole thing with her nose.
I know.
You know that she went through that as late, when she started out in the business, and I think that's why she created this persona of Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
So, but it was really refreshing to see like the real Lady Gaga, like underneath like the persona. I thought.
Well, the first time I fell in love with her, I always was a fan. I thought she was so fun. You know, poker face, and then she did Howard Stern. And it was her and the piano. And I was...
Yeah.
Tell me again that Lady Gaga can't sing. Not you. But I'm just saying, hey, Alan. That's when I said, this girl is going to take over. And I think I posted what a time to be alive in the time of Lady Gaga.
And how many times, okay, and I'm going to go through pop stars. How many times do you hear about... Christina Aguilera, Kelly Clarkson? I don't think it's not so much Britney Spears, but they talk about... They finally made that record they wanted to make, like Christina Aguilera with the Stripped record.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
Even Kelly Clarkson, like after American Idol, and I loved seeing that in the movie. You know, she wasn't a pop star, but they wanted her to have dancers, and she didn't want to have. Dancers.
She's like, I told them not to come on stage.
Yeah, I love that. But it's like, so what I loved about this movie was it dealt with so much. There was romance, there was the showbiz side of it, and how it works, the music biz.
I loved her transformation.
Yeah. And also addiction, you know, and just so again, I knew how it ended, how it was going to end, but I didn't want it to end that way.
No, I know because you're there with them. It's because you're on that journey, and I felt that movie. I mean, I was shook. I was sister shook, you guys.
I immediately downloaded the music.
Oh my gosh, we have been listening to Shallow, and Always Remember. That's my Always Remember Us This Way. That song, and I belt like I am Lady Gaga.
And I'm in Wizard of Oz land right now. I even liked her little Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Yes, yes.
In the beginning.
And even her La Vie en Rose.
La Vie en Rose. Yeah.
I was staring at her.
And how funny were the drag queens?
Oh my gosh!
Signed
amazing.
by Jackson
I
Boobs.
know. So great. Jackson Nade. So that movie was, like I
Go
said,
see
I
it.
was
Go
so
see it.
super sister shook.
They will
guys.
get nominations.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Bradley Cooper, really hit it out of the park. So interesting little fact that I read about the show. All these stars passed up on it,
well,
including directors.
Really?
And originally it was supposed to be, I think, like Joel Schumacher was tied to it. Then it was Clint Eastwood.
Oh, wow.
Clint Eastwood was tied to it. And then Bradley Cooper came on to play the part. And then Clint backed out of it for some reason. And then he took on the directing role. But they said everyone from Beyonce to even Alicia Keys was tied to it.
Wow. And I bet you they're kicking themselves in the pants now. Really quick, before I forget. So I have a YouTube page now.
Yay!
I don't manage it. I have someone managing it. Isn't that amazing? I'm not going to say who it is. No, I have a YouTube. Can I talk about it? It's Lauren.
Why don't you tell them who's managing it?
No.
Oh, you don't want. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if that was.
No, it's okay. So,
the person managing it is secret
manager. But no, I do. I have a YouTube, and it's Lauren Moran Mills. There's two, but there's one that I don't even know. I guess I started 1,000,001 years ago, but I don't touch that one. The one I have, you'll see my photos, and there's a couple of shares from other playlists, but we just uploaded an interview. So what's going to happen is, not only will these interviews be live on Homegrown Radio NJ and on my Facebook, they'll still be on Mixcloud, and they're also going to be on YouTube, and eventually we're going to get them onto Spotify. So I'm going to be everywhere.
She's going to be all over the place.
So
I know,
because you're with me. But I'm just saying, it's my YouTube. So if you don't mind, I would love to get some subscribers.
I'm just a bystander.
Did you subscribe? Subscribe to my page. Lauren
it just
Moran.
went live. Did you subscribe?
Lauren Moran Mills. So anyway, I got 1 minute, and
should I subscribe right now?
Subscribe right now. I'm going to get my producer back over here because I'm going to give Peter a call. Think of your questions.
I got to sign in. I'll do it later.
Do it later. Danny's going to filibuster, and I'm going to get Peter on the phone. So be ready. Time to filibuster. So talk a little bit.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us, we're super, super excited. Lauren's actually getting our special guest on the phone today. So we have Peter Onorati, who this incredible actor who's appeared on, I feel like, every single television show, essentially. Right now, you can see him on SWAT on CBS and This Is Us on NBC. But he's appeared on How to Get Away with Murder, Desperate Housewives, two shows that I just adore. So I'm really excited to talk to him about that. So we're going to get him on the air. So if you have any questions for him, just comment right here, and we will ask him on the air. I mean, when do you have an opportunity to ask an actor questions about just, what's it like being an actor, what they're doing, what do they enjoy about being an actor? So feel free right here on our Facebook Live video, just comment, and we will ask him on the air. And I believe she's plugging him in right now, which is really exciting. So again, if you have any questions, make sure to just comment below, and we will ask him. And I think we're getting all squared away here. Welcome back, Miss Lauren.
Hi, I'm back. Oh, these are weird. All right. So, thank you so much. So,
I enjoyed my filibustering.
You were good. I know. I know that you love hearing from us.
Should have done the weather or something.
But I know that you are all patiently waiting. So, without further ado, we would like to welcome Peter Onorati to the Chew the Scene Airwaves. Hi, Peter.
Hello.
How are you?
What? How am I?
Yeah.
I'm sore. I just came off of a full day of doing stunts on SWAT, and I've got welts and other red marks that need a jacuzzi and some ice.
Oh man.
I know you are busy, because when we were talking, you're like, I'm sorry, I'm shooting, right now. So you go from SWAT when you have stunt coordinating, and then you go to This Is Us, which is not so many stunts.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, this is a good year for work. It's been great, and because the two shows are so completely opposite one another, they, allows me to have some fun with different parts of my craft. If you want to call it that.
Oh, absolutely. Now, before we talk about your illustrious career, because like I said, we were we do
we were drooling over your IMDb.
Yeah, we were like, and and then like we remember, we're like, oh my gosh. But you are a Bootin' boy.
Yep.
I'm
a bomber.
You are a bomber, and what I love about you is when you come home, you'll check in, and you're at all these great locations, and you're still so supportive of Bootin' USA because your heart's still here and your family, right?
Well, listen, I live in LA, but home is Bootin', and that's never going to change.
No, I love that about you.
So, just like real quick, what are your favorite spots in Bootin'?
Well, you mean to visit or to eat? Let's see. I always make sure that I drive over the top of Horizon Drive, where I once lived, so I can see the New York skyline, and if it's changed. I always make sure I make a trip down to Grace Lord Park, to the river, to show my friends in California how beautiful it is in New Jersey.
Yes.
And you can usually find me at Maradona or the Reservoir Tavern, which is owned and run by a family that's been there for so long, but also Nicky Jr., who's in charge now, was my brother's roommate at college, and we all went to college in the same place,
at
Lycoming College in Pennsylvania.
And then, so you say you're a bomber. You played football.
I played football, yeah. I played football and I wrestled. In fact, the last time I was home, you may not know this name, but Dr. Robert Chipperman and I, who were co-captains of the wrestling team, took out our old wrestling coach, Dave Gardner, for lunch, and we had a great reunion.
Oh, wait, did you post that picture? I think I saw that. I saw something where you, okay,
yeah,
I did see that. Yeah.
Yep.
I love that about you. My family is an old Bootin' family too, Lincoln Park though. So my dad went to Bootin' High School, but he's older than you, so you would definitely not know him. But you might know some docs who I'm related to because there was 13 of them.
Yeah.
So, so, my roots are in Bootin'. Just like like you. So you played football. You played football in college.
Played football in college. I was supposed to wrestle in college, but because I made the varsity my freshman year, I didn't want to lose weight anymore for wrestling, so I canned the wrestling idea.
And then so then you just stuck with football, and then after that you worked for McCall's. Like I'm just doing like the timeline because we're going to get to your acting career.
Well, actually, after college, I bounced around a little bit, retailing, and then I landed a job at Ford Motor Company in the export division in Newark, New Jersey, for about 4 or 5 years. And while I was there, I got my MBA at Fairleigh Dickinson. And as soon as I got my MBA, the auto business was so bad in 1980 that Ford laid me off after they paid for the last 2/3 of my MBA. Wow. So I had done my master's thesis on a magazine from McCall's because I was dating the art director. It was called Working Mother. So I presented this 400-page document, actually, to McCall's, and they hired me, and they created a position for me. So I was there for about 4.5 years, and then, jumped into this world.
Yeah. So how did that happen?
Well, it's funny because my old girlfriend from McCall's, I used to come in from Newark, and we would have dinner at Restaurant Row, and then we would go to the comedy clubs. And this is the days when Seinfeld and those guys were all headlining at the Improv and stuff. And then we'd ride back on the bus to Parsippany, and I'd say, I think I could do that. Well, she got so sick and tired of hearing me say that she bought me a one-night class in comedy in the city. And that's where I met a wonderful group of people and became part of their improv group, still while I was in the business world. So during the time that I was at McCall's, I was bouncing around to all the hole-in-the-walls in New York, doing improvisational comedy with this wonderful group of people called Port Authority Theater Ensemble, or Pate. And while I was there, my former girlfriend dumped me, and I met a starving actress who directed the group and said, "Gee, you know, I think you could be an actor." After we started dating, and I said, "Oh, really? So I can starve and have 4 jobs like you?" So once I took the ice pack off my eye, I decided to try it. And so what ended up happening actually was I had some of my research published in Advertising Age, and I worked with 15 women at McCall's. 2 were my superiors and 13 were my subordinates. I got more penis birthday cakes than you. And so my boss and I had we had a share in a house in the Hamptons. We were friends and everything, and she just didn't like the fact that there were companies coming after me and offering me more money. So at that point, my then girlfriend, now wife, Jeanette Collins, said, "Why don't you try acting?" So I did, and within a couple of years, I was making more, doing commercials and a few little TV things than I was as a Park Avenue marketing executive, advertising and publishing, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I just stuck with it, and I got my first TV job, I think 2 years later. It was the last season of Kate and Allie. And during that, in the last episode, when I left, I was coming home we had moved to California already, and I was coming home to be with my wife for my first son's birth, and I had a call back in Rockefeller Center at 12 o'clock with a 2:30 flight out of JFK to come to see my son's birth. But I had a call back for Martin Scorsese for Goodfellas. So I had to take it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's a funny story, because at that time, for the small parts like I got in Goodfellas, Scorsese was hiring, you know, only real mob guys or cops who had chased real mob guys, you know. Right. And so we all had the same scene to read, and if they liked you, they would just pick a small part for you. So I walk into the casting office in Rockefeller Center, and there's all these guys smoking cigars with silver sweatsuits and patent leather sneakers, you know. and they look at me and they go, "What are you reading for?" And I go, "I got the sides for Sonny Bamboo." They go, "You know him?" I go, "No, I don't know him." "I know him. You don't look nothing like him." I said, "Well, that's what they gave me." He goes, "All right, kid, God bless you." You know.
I love Goodfellas.
It was great. It was very cool. And I took the train to the plane and came home, and my son was born a week later.
Wow.
Oh, that's such a great story. And then it just started from there. You just kept on, working. Would you?
Yeah, Stephen Bochco got a hold of me here, and he's my mentor, and rest in peace. And he made me a lead, you know, and I worked for him for 3 or 4 years between Cop Rock and my own show, Civil Wars, and then I came back on NYPD for a little while, you know. And that was it. It just became what started out as a lark is now how I make my living, you know.
And you must be like, "Pinch me! I can't believe I'm doing this." I mean, it's exciting. I mean, you must get excited.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, it's like when I drive. This Is Us films on the Paramount lot, you know. Mm-hmm. So I drive in the gate, and the guard comes out and he goes, "Hey, Peter, how you doing?" I'm looking up at the Paramount Tower, and I'm looking at somebody who knows me, and I'm going, "How did I get here?" Yeah. You know.
You worked hard for it.
Absolutely. So now, do you still do any improv? I love that, how you started in that improv troupe.
Yes. In fact, my wife and I take like a master's workshop from a guy by the name of Bill Steinkellner, who used to run Cheers. He was the head writer on Cheers for the last, I don't know, 8-10 years, whatever it was. He and his wife, because he's the guy that my wife Jeanette first did improv with when she was out here in California before she came to New York. So we maintained all those relationships, and the big bonus is there's a few groundlings in there, and so I performed at the Groundlings a couple times because they asked me to come in and sit in on a Thursday night show. And here's the big deal: Lorraine Newman is in is in that workshop, so I get to kind of play with Lorraine Newman, which is really cool for me.
Oh yeah, and is it intimidating though? I always wonder about myself, or are you just
you know what? Yes. Here's the thing about improv, and that's, you're right. You're looking at original SNL cast member.
Yeah.
You can be intimidated, but you know what? Improv humbles everybody. When you're on stage with somebody else, there is no Lorraine Newman. There's no anybody. There's just two entities that are sharing and listening and trying to make something good go forward. And that's the brilliance of improvisation. Is it teaches you to listen and to heighten and explore each moment in a positive way, which is great training for the business world as well.
Oh yeah, because some of the greatest salesmen are, you got to be on, you got to be an actor, you got to be able to problem solve, you got to be quick on your toes. That's why I recommend acting classes if you don't want to be an actor.
Absolutely. One of my friends, Hal Peller, who put together the original improv group, he now teaches improv to companies. He's based in New York, but he's gone all over the world teaching improv to companies for business purposes.
Yeah, because they got to use it all the time. You're meeting new people. That's why the art. I'm such an arts advocate, because you don't just have to be an actor. You can use it anywhere in your life. So now you were in Cop Rock, so you sing too.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a trained singer, but yes, I did. I sang 3 or 4 times in Cop Rock. In fact, I think the last one hired. But yeah. And that's really what's really stupid is my wife has an incredible voice, and she's never sung on television, and her talent dwarfs me in that department, and then I'm the one who's out there trying to make something work musically.
Was that show fun? Or was it? I remember when that show came out. I really do. Like, what was that like? That was like the first musical show.
Yeah.
It was an incredible experience for me. I tell you, I want to get an Emmy someday just so I can stand up and say, Cop Rock was the best thing I ever did. Because no one has ever done anything like it. And It's got a huge cult following, and people, it's really funny because it did really well, in the urban areas, in the urban markets, but in the fly and the other places, nobody got it, And I'll tell you a quick story. You have the upfronts when a new show's coming out, like when SWAT came out, they brought me to New York, and we all get up on the stage at Carnegie Hall, and Shamar Moore introduces us all, and these are the new cast of Cop Rock. So, of SWAT. So back in the day, Cop Rock had its upfronts here in L.A., and this was amazing. You can still find it on YouTube, but Kathleen Wilhoit sings what I think it's a Randy Newman lullaby to her baby, and then sells it into adoption for $200 drug money. It's the last scene of the pilot, and it's just an incredible moment in television, not because I'm connected to it or anything. If you watch that thing, it's just amazing. So they had that on. They had that whole screen, and I was sitting with the affiliates from Sioux City, Iowa, and you could hear a pin drop when this beautiful song and this moment was over. And this head of the Sioux City, Iowa affiliate leans in. He goes, "Oh, hell, she wouldn't sing when she sells her baby." I went, "Oh, we're screwed." The show's not even on yet, and we're screwed,
Oh. So how many seasons did that one run?
Has what?
How many seasons was Cop Rock?
Oh, only half a season.
Right?
So
I remember kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, so 13 episodes, I believe, in total with the pilot. And but, do you know that, Sheryl Crow did 2 episodes of Cop Rock. She sang background in 2 episodes of Cop Rock.
Oh, my gosh. I love
you can find it. If you go on YouTube and do Cop Rock and Sheryl Crow, you'll see her there. She did two episodes, yeah. I mean, we had incredible talent. Carl Anderson, who played Judas in the movie Superstar, Jesus Christ superstar, and he's gone now, Carl. But Carl was the judge in the pilot episode, and just an incredible, all these incredible voices. Believe me, when it came my time to sing, I was like, oh man, I could do it like after those guys, you know.
But if you're a good storyteller,
yeah,
because I
I'll
teach
take an actor who can who can tell a story
sing, and carry a tune. If you could tell the story,
that's one of the criteria they used. Basically, they wanted They don't want singers. They wanted actors who could sing. You know.
Well, because what happens is sometimes and I'm not putting down singers, everyone out there. Sometimes a singer will get so caught up in the notes and that you kind of lose the story, but an actor wants to get their point across. So then you accept if they don't, not that they're bad, but if they're not so trained, you're like, no, but I got the story.
So
yes, that's exactly right.
So we mentioned that we were looking at your IMDb, and you've been in literally all these incredible shows. Desperate Housewives, Boston Legal, Everybody Hates Chris. Love that show. Yep. And some of them, it would be a reoccurring role. So talk about, as an actor, what that process is like for you to come in, and let's say you're just doing one episode or you're doing a couple episodes. What's that like to bring this character to life when you're already in an established show?
Well, a couple of those that you mentioned were actually offers. Sometimes you have to audition, and still have to audition like anybody else. But a couple of those shows, like Everybody Hates Chris and Boston Legal and Desperate Housewives, they were all offers. So the producers knew what I did. Right. They knew my background. They'd seen my law shows. They'd seen my cop shows. They had seen whatever, and so they wanted me to bring whatever I could, to the role. So if I get something that has a nice bite like that, like a Desperate Housewives or something like that, I do the same thing that I do if I'm starting a series. I sit down and I write a character history. I make up a life for this guy, because sometimes when you're, series like that have different directors for every episode, and the directors have a mandate. They have to get a certain amount of shots in. They have to show the stars, and then not so much the guest stars, and so on. So, they have an agenda. But sometimes when you're an actor who's been around for a while, they allow you to do what you've worked on. So I make this little history up so that when they say, "Why did you do it like that?" and I have a long-winded answer that they're really not prepared for, And then in the end, if they say, well, don't do it like that, I go, okay. I mean, there's been times in the past, I did a pilot for Rob Reiner that never saw production, never aired. But I remember this is the first time Peter Bonner's directed it. He played the dentist in the old Bob Newhart show.
Oh, okay.
But he was a director. And I remember him looking at me one time and saying, I'm not getting, this, and you need to, and I said, okay, look, I said, I have absolutely no ego about this at all. I think I'm doing what you want. If you want to give me a line reading, I'll do it. I want to move the project forward too, but I think I'm doing what you want me to do.
Yeah.
So give me a line reading. You know what? I'm no, master thespian. I can, I'll do what you want, and that's the one thing you got to remember. I remember a long time ago when I first got into business, there was an article in Backstage in New York, and it was interviewed a bunch of directors, mostly Broadway directors and stuff, but I think it was Jerry Zaks who said, and this was about what they were looking for in an audition. But this carries into, the production itself. They said, I want to get a sense from this person when they come in the room that they're there to make my project better, that they're there to help me make the best project I can make, not crawling on their knees to get a job, not over working their choices or anything like that they're like a collaborator and want to make things better. And so I carry that with me through every audition and every, and every time I step on a soundstage.
Yeah. And And just real quick too, I love how you mentioned, doing the character history, because both Lauren and I, we work as teaching artists, and that's something we tell our students, when they're working on a scene or something, what's your character's history?
Yeah.
What's the backstory? So I just think that's so, you're a smart actor, I mean, it's just, it makes sense. It's really great. Have you done any theater, any stage work?
I got my Actors Equity card at the Public Theater in New York.
Nice.
In the play Talk Radio that became
which you're on right now.
And that was totally by accident. I was doing commercials at the time, and my commercial agent says, "Hey, go down to Public Theater. You do all these voices and stuff. Go down to Public Theater and audition for this play, right?" So I get in the booth, and Eric Bogosian is out front, and
oh my God.
there was Jeanette and I used to go to this place called the Bagel Restaurant. It was a little coffee shop on West 4th Street, and the guy that used to serve us would come up and say, "Hello, how are you? I haven't seen you in a long time. You look well." And you know what? You want your usual? And I would say yes. And he goes, "K3, poach 2, well done. This on the side. How about you, honey?" Right?
Oh, my God. Spot on.
So I go in the back, and the first voice that I do is that voice, as a caller. And Eric comes walking back. He goes, "Was that you?" I said, "Yes." And, so that was my first job. And then I've never done any Broadway. Out here, I did a revival of Gemini, which is a play that I saw when I was, just out of college, and a few other. I did a great reading play that was, in the style of Vagina Monologues, but and it was done in New York by Ellen Burstyn, but it was called Suicide Notes. It was a really moving piece that a friend of mine created out here, but he ended up putting it up in New York just briefly. But no, not much stage. I did. Do you know who George Firth is? The character actor?
Yep.
Okay. Well, George Firth wrote Company with Sondheim, and he wrote.
Right.
Well, I did George's last play out here. He did a play called Sex, something like that.
Oh, it's a great play.
Yeah. And so that I think that's the last time I was on stage. But yeah.
Did you get a thrill from being? I know you. Was it a thrill for you to be on stage? Because it's different than film and TV, because you have that audience there. So did you get that high, that thrill?
Well, it's nerve-wracking, Yeah. I mean, you got takes when it comes to television and film. You got to take here and a take there, and you come up with what's best, But plays to me are nerve-wracking. Although I would love to come to Broadway and not to do a lead necessarily, but to do a good role on Broadway. And get me back to Boonton. And,
Yes.
Bring that revival of talk radio.
The thing is having improvisational training, keeps me grounded a little bit too. I mean, like I said, I did these couple of shows at the Groundlings out here, and that was nerve-wracking because these guys, they do the show together all the time, and they know each other's strengths. And even though it's improv, they know how to play to each other's strengths. So when you're coming in as a guest star, it's a little bit crazy, But that's that's the energy, and when you feel an audience like that, it's really kind of cool to have that immediate response.
I want to see you come back, and I want to see you in a comedic role. In a play, because just hearing you do that impression, I don't even know that restaurant, but I know that character.
Yeah, we've all exactly. And
well, yeah, I did have my own sitcom right after Civil Wars. I had a short-lived sitcom called Joe's Life. With Mary Page Keller played my wife, and George DiCenzo played my brother. And that's another Hollywood story. Like they hired me for this thing, and the story is about this Jersey guy who loses his job at an airplane manufacturing plant, goes back to work in his family's restaurant with his brother, right? So it's about this Italian Jersey guy, right? The entire writing staff was Jewish. So there was this great scene that they wrote for me taking my daughter, and this just goes to show you how people hear things, writers hear things, directors hear things, and also in terms of humor, that there's certain ethnicities that have a beautiful song to them, and jokes or something can only be told in that ethnicity, right?
Right.
So they wrote me this great scene where I take my daughter to the gynecologist for the first time. And I sit down next to this woman. She screams. I think it's me. I move over. And then I pick up a pamphlet of the uterus, and I'm turning it around going, geez, no matter how you look at it, it looks like it's staring you in the face, right? And then I go to the next seat. I sit down next to this woman, and I go, so when do you do? She looks at me. She goes, I'm not pregnant. So it's a little fat joke, ha, ha, ha. Right? So all week, the whole thing, blah, 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 blah. So when do you do? So when do you do? So Friday night comes, we've got a live audience, and I do the whole thing 3 times. They laugh. So when do you do? So when do you do? So the writer comes over. He goes, can you just do one more? And I go, yeah, sure. And I look at George DiCenzo, and I go, watch this. And I go, and I sit down. Lady screams. I move. I look at the pamphlet of the uterus. I sit down next to the woman. I go, so when do you do? And that's the one they printed.
I love it. I love it.
That's great.
Change the inflection, and there you go. You get the laugh.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
perfect.
There's a song to every ethnicity. You know?
And you know what? You're right. You're right. And now you're an Italian. Do you find that being an Italian American has helped you in this business of show?
I don't think anything has helped me in this business. It's like I mean, you know, a lot of the people that I work with have been in the business for a long time or come from this area. You know, I mean, I remember somebody asked me once when I was doing Civil Wars with Marielle. They said, well, how do you guys get along together? I go, we get along fine, but you know, they said, well, do you relate to? I said, well, listen, her grandfather was a world-renowned author. Mine was a shoemaker.
Right.
How do you think we get along?
Yeah,
you know,
right.
And that's, I mean, that's the kind of, I think that's what makes me hireable is I've made mistakes in this business, but they've been honest mistakes out of my heart. When I coach people or when I speak to young acting students, I said, listen, you're going to make mistakes, but as long as they're from your honest heart, you can live with that. The first mistake that you make out of trying to be politically correct or trying to, you know, subvert some other process, that's going to haunt you.
Yeah.
You know? So I think the only thing about being Italian American that has helped me is, quite frankly, the passion, both the positive and the negative of the passion in my background. You know, hot-headed Italian, but also passionate Italian, and what that's helped me to do, I think, is I've cataloged everything in my mind. People say to me, "How can you play such a bad guy? You were, you know," but I remember everything that hurt me, from the slightest turn of a head when I was saying something important to somebody, to when somebody punched me right in the face. You know, that whole gamut of wounds, and then all the positive stuff too. But I remember the specifics. And when I coach people, sometimes I say, you know what? Turn around and say this to the wall. Don't say it to the person you're acting with. And it's like a revelation for some of them, you know. But all that comes from this overblown, passionate Italian-American background, for sure.
I feel that because I'm Italian. My name is, you know, Moran's Irish, but my mom's name was Barbier, but the I got dropped somewhere. So, like, you know, that's Italian. So I feel that when you're talking about that passion, that drive. And I remember everything. And Danny and I both are actors too. And I use, you know, that's like a lot of sense memory for me.
Right.
When something happens, I don't let it define me, and I'm sure you don't either. But if you can use that in your work, why not?
Well, that's
right?
the thing. And I think that, and I think the reason you don't let it define you is the same reason for me, and that is because we've learned to use that as actors for a career and not take it seriously anymore. We use it for the value that it has to us in creating another life on stage or on film. But I'll tell you something, you bring some of that stuff out here and you take yourself too seriously, you're going to go away really fast. You know, because you are nothing but, you know, a tooth on a cog in the wheels of the machinery, you know.
Well, because you had mentioned how you said, give me a line reading, like I'll do what you want to do.
Right.
I mean that, but then there'll be an actor that's going to be like, I'm not doing it that way, because this and that. Those actors, I feel like, are the ones that we don't see anymore.
Right.
Because they either you don't see them anymore, or they're also producers on the show, so they can't get fired.
True, that's
right,
true. Right.
But that's the thing. You always should listen, and listen to everybody. That's the other thing that has been a blessing about being an actor. I feel like I'm still learning about everything. I learned from my kids as they were growing up. I learned from everybody.
Well, we're ever changing, don't you think? Our life, like you're different from who you were 10 years ago. You're different from who you were 30 years ago. You're still, the core of you is still who you are, but your journey has taken you to different places, and you could just, layer that in to your work.
So you mentioned,
that's that's experience. I mean, that's all life is a compilation of experiences. And I just told my kids the other day, I said, you know what? There's no such thing as mistakes. It's all just tuition.
Yes. I love that you said that, because I always say, I'm like, I don't make mistakes. I'm just learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'm learning here.
Yep.
So you mentioned that you'll coach other actors and you talk to students as well. Yeah. So what advice would you give someone who's trying to break into the business, or maybe they're looking for they're changing careers?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only thing that I tell everybody, I mean, each situation is different depending on who the person is, and if you see that there is a future and a talent, even for their type or whoever they are. But the one thing that I tell everybody is take an improv class. Get into improvisation, because it supplies you with that security of being able to think on your feet, and anytime and get out of your own way, and teaches you to listen. And the one I said it before, but I want to highlight it because I think it's a great thing for life. The one thing about improvisation is it teaches you to heighten and explore each moment to the positive. If you go for a joke in an improv scene, the scene dies right there. Mm-hmm. If you stay true to your character and you take what's given you, the information that's given you, and you move it forward in a positive way, everything works out better. And that's really the way life is. It's a really good skill to take, out into the world and off the stage.
Yeah, I love hearing you say that, because again, like I said, like as teachers,
this is what we're telling.
That's what we're telling our students, and young people.
We're doing it right, Danny. We're doing it right. No, because I always say to them, your job as the actor is to be as truthful to these characters. That is your job. The funny will come from the truth, the truthiness of it. You know what I mean? I said, if you try and make them laugh, they're not going to laugh.
Well, when I'm coaching people, if I have them new, I tell them, look, there are 2 or 3 characters that you go into an audition with, okay? There's you, the person, there's you, the actor, and then there's you, the character that you're playing, And I said sometimes, and in my case very often, you have to negotiate all 3 of those characters to have to get through the audition. I don't want to say successful, because there's no such thing as a successful audition, except if you execute your choices and you go home, But for me, sometimes I'll come in and be a producer. How are your kids? Blah, 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 and I just want to get in there and do my work, and then there's, oh, I saw you on, then the second character, oh, I saw you on This Is Us, and then, okay, let's do the audition,
Right.
So sometimes you have to prepare more than one person going into an audition, and you have to be able to, facilitate that change, or to do it facilely, if that's a word,
So let's talk a little bit about This Is Us. So This Is Us comes on, I think last year. Was it last year, or was it 2 years ago? Whenever.
This is the third year, yeah.
Third year, right?
Yep.
So the show comes on, it takes
blows
off. Blows up. Everyone loves it. We're crying every Tuesday. Cannot help ourselves. And then you get cast on the most beloved character. Everyone loves Jack, right? Milo Ventimiglia. As his father. Can you talk a little bit about working on this groundbreaking show, what that's like for you.
Sure. When I went in, I really loved the description of the character. I didn't know much about the show. I don't watch much TV except for news and documentaries and things like that. So I went in, and it happened to be directed by the first one that I did was directed by Tim Busfield.
Oh,
wow.
30-something?
Now married.
Is that the 30-something? Is that Tim from 30
Timothy Busfield?
From 30-something? Oh my gosh!
And
okay.
And the executive producer of This Is Us is Ken Olin, another guy from 30.
Oh my gosh! Okay,
Yeah,
keep on going. Like mind blowing. Keep on going.
So Tim Busfield is now married to my best friend Melissa Gilbert.
Oh my gosh! You posted about her recently. Okay, got you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I went in for this thing, and then I reached out and I texted Melissa and I said, tell those guys I'll do anything.
Yeah.
And she texted me back and she said, well, they're looking at it, and I ended up getting the role. So it was, and if you listen really close, I do my little Pittsburgh accent in there too. Going, hey, Ewan's going downtown. There's a great salon towel.
Yeah.
But this character is, people just don't like him, and he's got problems. But characters like that don't know. They think they're doing the right thing.
Right.
And that's the way I play everything. All the bad guys I played in movies of the week and things like that, I don't know. They don't know what they're doing is wrong. They have a goal in mind, and they pursue that goal, with every part of their being, And the other thing, too, that's really interesting about this character, I remember at the end of last season, I did an episode where I took the two kids fishing. It's when you first discover Nicky. And I see, and he's a drunk, so he sees a bait shop, and there's booze in there, and he goes in to get a drink and leaves the kids in the car. Well, the director, it was two directors on this, and the crew were like, "Oh my God, you leave those kids in the car? What a piece of you are." And I said, "Let me tell you something about this guy." I said, because I grew up at the same time that Jack grew up. I said, and my father left me in the car all the time. So don't look at this guy through the same perspective or the same prism, that of current day values. Mm-hmm. You have to understand. My father used to take me on estimates for his construction company and say, "Okay, you stay here," and I'd stay in the car.
Yeah.
And sure, the guy had a drinking problem, but you found out. You just found out last Tuesday night that he wasn't always a drinker. Something turned him around. But I think the beauty. The beauty of This Is Us, and the reason everybody loves it, is because I wish I had a psych degree instead of marketing sometimes. But I think it shows you what has happened to you in your life. There's so many people that can identify with all the stories and all the things that have happened to these characters. But the beauty of it is when it flashes forward or backward, it shows you what that person has done with that, for better or for worse. Some people never get over it. Some people make a better life for themselves despite that, that thing. And that's why I think everybody likes it, because they've all experienced those same things. But some of them have made something out of it, and some of them have just wallowed in it for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And I love how you said, because Danny and I were talking at the top of the show, I don't know if you heard us. I love that you brought up how we bring up modern morals and we project them onto people in the past. I remember, I grew up in the 80s. I was born in the 70s. My mom left me in it wasn't like a thing like it is now. And we were talking about A Star Is Born, and we're talking about the manager character. And I said, no, he's not bad, because, there are bad people in this world. Don't misunderstand me. He's doing his objective.
Right.
Is different than, this person's objective. So we can't look at these people as bad. They're just who they are. So Jack's father is just who he is because of his experiences, what life kind of threw at him. His path is different,
Look, in those days, the husband-father's role was to go to work, bring the paycheck home, lay it on the table, and either watch TV and go to sleep or go out with his buddies.
Yep.
That's the way it was.
Yeah.
You know? And the fact that he's got a drinking problem, that's another thing on top of it, or he's abusive or whatever. But 3/4 of what people don't like about Stanley is the way everybody was back then.
Right.
Yes.
It's so true, but it's like you said, that's how people relate to the show. And I remember that scene when he leaves them in the car.
Yes.
And because I just remember, I'm just having that image of young Jack like peeking out and looking for Dad, you know?
Yeah.
And
sure.
And I, even watching the show, I'm like, that was the time, you know? And I think too that it also, that's how strong his relationship, Jack's relationship with Nikki, you know, that you know, his protection of him too, and how that came together. So it's funny though, because even when I mentioned you were going to be on the show, some people were like, "Oh, he plays that bad guy," and I'm like,
He's not bad.
This is
He's
like,
not
it's that
bad.
whole,
It's not black and white. We're not black and white.
But it's that whole thing with like the villain, like a villain. It's like there's truth to everybody and what they're about.
Right.
So,
and don't you think, Peter, that like even talking outside of television and film, maybe Stanley did the best that he could with what he was given in life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you just saw that. You saw that Tuesday night. You saw that his father was a drunk and that he didn't drink initially. You know, and you saw when he says to 4-year-old Jack, he said, "This is your little brother. Your only job is to protect him."
Yeah.
And that's what Jack has done all his life. You see him. He follows him to Vietnam. It's the one thing that his father gave him that he kept. You know. And even in the abusive moments when the kid comes downstairs and he comes down to back him up, you know, he protects his son, his brother. And that's and you see that on last Tuesday night is that's what his father told him to do, you know?
It's like the butterfly effect. We always you know, everyone we meet, they change us like some other way, and somehow they affect us.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about SWAT really quick, because you go from being on this almost like period piece, right? This Is Us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 5 different decades on this.
I mean, we're like all over the place. And then SWAT is contemporary, and it's, you know, it deals with the SWAT team.
Yeah.
So what is that like, flipping back and forth as an actor?
Right now, it's painful.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I was gonna say, just the stunt work you're doing. You know.
Well, you know what? It's wonderful. I mean, it's so great to be able to do that, to be able to be on these 2 different shows. One is mostly action and very little, you know, I would say more delivery of information than anything else. And then the other one is the application of craft. SWAT's a great show to be a part of. Although I'm on a lot less this year, they've changed my contract, so I'm not going to be on SWAT as much this year. But the change in that contract is good in one way. It allows me to do This Is Us because they wouldn't let me do it last year when my contract was a regular.
Okay.
So I've been scaled down from that. But SWAT, like yesterday, I had this big fight scene. It's probably one of the biggest fight scenes in the show in the year and a half the show's been on. And the director was a stunt woman. She was directing the entire episode. But I mean, I rehearsed this thing for like 3 or 4 different days. And somebody said to me, he said, how do you like this? I go, man, if anybody who's a kid wants to be an actor when they grow up, I never thought of it, but if anybody wanted to be an actor, this is the stuff they want to do. They want to do fight scenes. They want to, ride horses and shoot guns and all that stuff. And that's what SWAT is. It's it's every actor's dream, man, to do this kind of stuff. And so I love it, and I love the fact that I can shed it and then go and really sink my teeth into telling my son to take care of his brother for the rest of his life, on another show, I
know. And that, I always say to my students I'm like, we're the lucky ones. we get to be other people, even if it's for a 90-minute play or it's so interesting to be able to walk in someone else's shoes and tell their stories from, from their perspective.
And I think, and for you as an actor, I mean, to your credit, it's just you're showcasing your craft and your talent to be able to do something like SWAT and then to go over to This Is Us. So, I mean, we commend you for that.
I hope everybody thinks that too, especially the casting agents, because honestly, except for improv, I don't have much training. My wife and I both got into the Actors Studio in New York before we left in 1988. And I just went back this last year, and everybody's going, where the hell you been? I go, I had 3 sons, and I was working, so I get to go back to the craft side of it and look at it and watch the process. It was really wonderful when I went into a couple sessions at the studio and watch these people and watch their process and have choices and adjustments thrown at them and have them rework them. It's just it's something I've been working a lot since I started, and I never really got the chance to see this kind of stuff, and it's wonderful for me to sit in there and watch someone else's process. It's just wonderful,
But you know what? You said you didn't have any formal training. Sometimes those are my favorite actors because your performance comes from the most authentic place because it's just coming from your heart, from inside you. Sometimes, and I'm not putting down training at all. I think schooling is important and we're always learning. But there is, when you could just do it, I admire that the most, to be honest with you, because it's hard.
Yeah, but you know what? And sometimes I think you're right that the lack of training can be a blessing because you don't have any preconceived notions or structures that you have to put your process through in order to come out the other side with a performance. It like you said, it just comes from wherever you draw it from, or like you and I were talking about this catalog of emotions and instances that we all have.
Right.
Yes.
And so you go directly to that. You don't need sense memory or something like that necessarily to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time I took one class from a very famous teacher in the city, Susan Batson.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good teacher. And I had never done anything like sense memory. She had us walking in a circle, putting a person in front of us, and she put some music on, and this person who had passed on that I put in front of me, all of a sudden I was just bawling, and it was something I never thought I could do. I used to say, I can't act because I can't cry.
Right.
But I was there, and she's screaming at me, "Look at you! Look at your instrument! Look how open it is!" And so at the end of the class, I raised my hand. I said, "Can I ask you a question?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "So if the script moves us, do we really need this?" She goes, "No, that's the point, If it comes to you naturally or raw or whatever, you don't need this crap, But if it doesn't, it's there for you.
It's a tool.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was saying, it's a tool. You didn't go to Lee Strasberg, did you? Because that's where I went.
No, I didn't. No, I had a good friend of mine. We're still good friends. She's a school teacher now, but I took for about 6 months. I was working with her, and these are both members of the Actors Studio, and that was it. And then I started working, and I just didn't do anything anymore. But I had the improv training, Mm-hmm. But she was the one that sent me to Susan Batson, and so the idea that all these things that are out there are only there if it doesn't come to you organically,
Right.
If it does, great. If not, then you mess around with these tools,
So, illustrious career. I mean, really impressive. I really admire you. I love that you still have your tie to your hometown. I mean, that just speaks a lot for your character. You're married, you have 3 kids. What else? So What do you do for fun? I know you don't watch TV.
How do you unplug?
Yeah, we always like to know because you're so busy. What do you do? Like, what's like a guilty pleasure that you're willing to share?
Oh, man. Martinis.
Yes.
No, because listen, you're Italian. You like food.
Yeah, I mean, I listen. I have a big house out here. I'm constantly fixing the sprinklers and and building. I'll tell you what I do like to do. I build furniture with a friend of mine. I have a beautiful patio set and some other stuff that I've built, and I built a bocce court in the back of my yard. Great barbers. I really like building things. That's really what I'd love to do. And if I had a big enough career like whoever Clooney or whatever, I mean, aside from doing the great work that he does around the world, I would love to grab my friend who has a little house in Topanga and say, listen, we're going to put a shop here, and we're going to build furniture with our brand name on it, and you're going to make a living out of it, and I'm going to have fun.
Oh,
there you
love
go.
That.
I also love that, you talked about coaching and talking to students, because just hearing your story, how you started out in like the business marketing world to where you are now is just so inspiring, and I think worth hearing about. So I think that's really special that you're doing that, because I think that there's
something really important about that part of the story, and my wife was an actress when I met her, but she's a writer producer now. If you look her up, she's got a great IMDb as well. But she started studying acting where she lived in Santa Barbara with Bradford Dillman, who was a major leading man of the late 1950s, played St. Francis of Assisi and everybody. He was a wonderful guy, and he told her something that I actually lived out. He said, if you want to be an actor, have something else that you love to do and can make a living at. Otherwise, you might never get there.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left McCall's, I had money. I owned my house. I mean, I was paying it off, but I didn't need anything. I wanted it as bad as anybody else in the room, but I didn't need it, and that was a big difference.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah. I like that. Peter, would you mind doing a station identification for us? Can I tell you what to say? Since you're so good at improv. So listen.
Do I have to write it down?
No,
I think you'll get it.
You'll be fine.
If you could say, hi, this is Peter Onorati, and you're listening to Chew the Scene with Lauren and Danny on homegrownradionj.org. Can you say that? We could do a couple takes.
With Lauren and Danny.
On
what?
On homegrownradionj.org.
Homegrown Radio?
Mm-hmm. NJ.org.
NJ.org.
Yeah. We could do a couple takes. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I scribbled it. Okay,
that's right.
You're listening to Chew the Scene.
Yep.
With Lauren and Danny on Homegrown Radio. NJ.com. Right?
.org.
All right, hold on. Oh, let me write that down again.
And don't forget to say your name.
Homegrown. Oh, jeez. Radio. See, I don't get to study my lines here.
I know. This is a cold read. It's a cold read. Yeah. You got this.
You got this.
You said .org, right?
.org.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right.
We're ready.
Hi, this is Peter Onorati. You're listening to Chew the Scene with Lauren and Danny on homegrownradionj.org.
And cut. That was amazing. You booked it.
Look
you
at that.
booked that job, Peter.
Baby. Oh, man. Okay. Send me the residuals.
This was so great.
This was so special. Thank you.
Oh, my gosh. I was so I know I've been needling you for a while, but I know that you're crazy busy. And I am so happy that you were able to give us time today, because I know that you are busy with SWAT and This Is Us. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did.
Yes. And if you're ever in,
my wife left the outer office. She couldn't listen to me anymore. That's great.
If you're ever in Boonton, come visit us. We actually had someone comment on our Facebook Live, and they said, "Oh, we thought he was in the studio. I was going to bring him a pie from Reservoir."
I know. Bill Westhoven wanted to bring you pizza. But no, the next time you're in Boonton, I'll message you. I'll be like, hey, you're in Boonton. We're going out for a drink. Okay. I'll buy you one. I promise.
All right. No problem.
This was so great. Good luck to you. I cannot wait to see what else you have up your sleeve, because I know that there's more coming from you. I really do.
All right, thanks. Thanks for asking me, you guys.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, you too.
All right, bye. So if you were listening, that was Peter Onorati.
I do want to mention real quick his website.
Oh, we didn't ask him
that
for that.
You gave me, but we'll give it out.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
It's PeterOnorati.com, PeterOnorati.com, PeterOnorati.com. A really great website that has a bio, videos. There's a gallery of photos and his entire resume, which, like we said, is incredible. Mm-hmm. So that was great. I love. We get
to talk to so many great people. That's all I'm going to say. When we started this, like 3 years ago, I want to say, right? Is this
3 years? Yeah. Third, right?
Who knew that this is where we would arrive at? And it's beyond thrilling. We get to speak to the most interesting people, authors, actors, musicians, producers,
designers,
just artists.
We've even had, in the arts, we've had like arts administrators. I mean, everything,
Who knew?
Local businesses.
I know. I just, and we're here to give a voice to, equally to like independent artists and, major artists, which is why we started this show. And I loved that, like Peter was talking about coaching and teaching and the importance thing, and I get so excited because I'm like, we're doing it right, Danny.
But not only that, too.
We know that we are, but
hearing his story, it's almost like if he wasn't doing that, you want to be like, you need to tell people your story because just what you're saying is important. So when he said that, it was like, it was like a sigh of relief. Like, I'm so glad that you are doing that because, up and coming artists or, people that are trying to do like a career shift, they need to hear those stories and know. I mean, I think it's just fascinating that he has, an MBA.
I know.
And
football player, wrestler, boot and
improv.
Improv.
And then just doing the improv, I think it was just really, really, just really fascinating. And just, it's exciting. It's exciting to see that. And like, what a joy for him as an actor to go from being on like a SWAT team and then being this dad.
On this series that everyone loves.
On this dramatic series. So it is pretty amazing.
So it was next week. Danny's not going to be here.
Yeah, it's Harvest
because he has Harvest Fest for Growing Stage. Monday, you guys have the award. Are you going to the?
I am. Yeah. So this Monday is the Theater Alliance curtain call. I'll be there. Saturday, I'm going to Two Rivers Halloween Bash.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, Jenna Rocker
so
just
busy.
Invited me.
Nice.
So I have to get my costume together.
I know.
It's like a costume thing.
Oh, it'll be fun.
So it's a crazy time.
But we'll be back. Lovesick opens on the 26th of October, which is
cool.
next Friday.
I'm gonna try to come
solo.
maybe like
I may be Lomo solo next Thursday.
I'm like, what did she say?
I'm working on some interviews coming up. Go to my YouTube. Please subscribe.
You have a YouTube.
I have a YouTube. Lauren Moran Mills. Go to there. Podcasts are now going to be on.
I love how I'm like a bystander in your YouTube channel.
No, you'll be there.
I'm saying I like
you
that.
Are.
That it's like.
But yeah, go to my YouTube because
I'm
that's.
Start telling people go to my YouTube. It's called Lauren Moran Mills.
It's called Lauren Moran Mills, and all my podcasts are going to move over there. Got some stuff coming up. It's big stuff.
She's hustling.
Happening.
This is my Mama Hustler over here.
Mama Hustler. Thank you so much for tuning in. Chewing the Scenery, Chew the Scene with Lauren and Danny. Hey, Eric Hayes, I'm going to message you, I promise. See you guys. We'll be back. Thanks for tuning in.